Right now we're in what we call Epoch's gun barrel. So if you saw the design of this winery, you would understand why we call it that. This is where the wines spend the second year of their lives aging, and then they go from here to the bottle. So we've got different sized barrels. These are actually all 2018s, so they'll be bottled this early and late summer. And you can see the different sizes kind of by how they line up on the left side of me, and then the right side we've actually got all puncheons. And this is where we're going to taste the 2014 Veracity. So the 2014 Veracity did spend time aging in concrete, and then mostly in large format barrel with a little bit of new. It had less concrete than the 2015, so we'll talk about the concrete when we get to the 15. So the 2014 Veracity was actually 66% Grenache, 18% Mourvedre, and 16% Syrah. When we talk about the 14 versus the 15, it's a really fun opportunity to talk about the different vintages, because to me, the vintages are so important in understanding the wine in your glass. So 14 was a really warm, dry year. We were kind of smack dab in the middle of the drought. Despite all those things, I think because of the number of years of drought we had it was like 3 years of drought so far. It hadn't really affected the production of the vine. It was just more of something we can use to describe the warm, dry year and the effect on the vine. I think the wines ended up being super plush and very sort of Paso-Roblin, in the sense that they have so much fruit, so much beautifully ripe tannin. They're just so approachable and delicious. So the way we make wine at Epoch is that it's really important to have the character of the blend that we're trying to present to you be there, but also represent the vintage correctly and our vineyards correctly. So this wine does that because it is still aging so beautifully in the bottle. This is a vintage definitely for the people who love that sort of Paso, very supple, very velvety, soft wines. It's not that they don't have tannin, they have tannin, but the tannin is very ripe. So I know what some of you might be thinking is that, gosh, Jordan just talked about the 14 vintages being really warm. I'm not sure how well those wines will age. Well, you can rest assured that whatever you're going to buy from Epoch, we have done the utmost that we can to make sure that we have the freshest expression in the bottle that will age a really long time, regardless of the climactic events in a certain year. Now, given that, there are some vintages that are much more approachable young versus old, and 14 is one of those. It's got a lot of tannin, but the tannin is ripe. There's tons of fruit character. So again, here I am talking about the baby fat of the wine. At the first, it was just so gushy and ushy and delicious, but also maybe not as serious as the wine would be when you give it a little bit more time in bottle. So we're kind of approaching just like this perfect mark on the 14 Veracity, where it's still got so much fruit to it, but you're starting to see sort of like the site-driven minerality, the fine-grained tannins creep through that are just not sort of coated by the fresh, juicy fruit. You've got this delicious herb character. It smells like, goodness, it has like so much strawberry, concentrated wild strawberry fruit. It smells like I've just sort of baked a berry cobbler in the house, and like that vanilla bean crumble exploding from the glass. It also has sort of this dried brush character. It reminds me of walking through the oaks in Paso on a hot summer day when the cool winds pick up, and it's super refreshing. But again, yeah, that line of sort of like that sort of limestoney rock minerality that we just all know, but it's hard to really explain in words. It's much easier to draw, and a texture is there, and it's kind of coming out more now as the wine is a little bit older. All right, now we're going to talk about the 2015 Veracity. So if any of you know me and have been around me in the last year and a half, you probably know that this wine has been a complete obsession of mine. It's the wine that I pour for my friends, winemakers, usually they're both, sommeliers and consumers alike, knowing that everyone will be happy with it. It's actually sitting in a concrete tulip on the ledge of it right now, but aging inside there is the 2018 Veracity. And the 2015 Veracity was here several years ago before bottling, but it's about 25% concrete aged, and the rest is in the combination of different size oak barrels like the 2014. So different than the 14, this one is actually 47 Grenache, 34 Mourvèdre, and 19 Syrah. But more different than the percentages is the vintage. All right, so here we go. 2015. It was such a different year. We were still in the drought. We had a super cool spring. Everything was kind of going along normally, except we didn't have a lot of rain. And then it just cooled off a lot. So the vines just didn't want to grow. They kind of like got the brakes put on them. And because of that, and the fact that we were so many years into the drought then, the vines didn't want to produce very much. The difference was, though, I mean, you hear that about 15 on Syrah, Cabernet, Tempranillo, did not have a lot of fruit. The Grenache and Mourvèdre were okay. They were somewhat normal. But that cool spring and then very mild growing season through the summer really left their mark on the wines. August was hot, caused with the low yields and the hot year and the not a lot of water. We actually started harvesting the earliest we ever had. We brought Viognier in, I believe, in mid-August that year. But we were expecting to make just these super concentrated red wines, and instead the wines were super elegant. The tannins were light, the wines were lighter, the acids were beautiful, and we did not know what was going on. It took us a while to sort of reflect on the fact that it's not just what happens to your grapevines in the mid to late summer, early fall that impacts the wines. It's actually what happens from the very beginning. So I was just going to talk to you a little bit about the flavors of this 2015 Veracity, because the vintage was cooler and more mild, and I was sort of insinuating like it's just a little bit more elegant from the get-go, where normally you have to wait a little bit for that to happen in some of the vintages. There's so much spicy kind of cooler climate character going on in these wines. I'm getting I get the strawberry, but it's not as concentrated as in the 14. I've got white pepper. I've got fresh herbs. I've got a lot of resinous sort of sage and rosemary. And then you can almost smell the minerality on this wine. It smells like a wet rock almost. So the 2015 on the palate isn't nearly as voluminous as the 14, but that's okay, again, because we love the difference in the vintages. This is a very food-friendly wine. I think that it can go anywhere from your heavier salad dishes, you add a little bit of grains in there, to a poultry dish and potentially even a duck. But we know we've got wines that suit the meats really well, so it's actually really refreshing to have one that can deal with the lighter dishes and maybe even salmon. So yeah, it's got lots of hints of little texture around the palate, but it doesn't fill the palate out as much as the 14 does. The minerality is really heightened on the palate, and then you've totally got those little points of spice and fruit just kind of easing in different spots, but it's definitely a mid-palate wine. It's not stretching all the way to the finish. Well, it does go to the finish. It's not as full and as intense in the back of the mouth as some of our other wines. Ask anyone at Epoch. We don't know what it is about the Veracity, but it's amazing in the cellar if you come barrel taste or concrete tank taste out of here. But once you get it in the bottle, it needs about a year. And so those of you who have the 16 Veracity, it's probably just starting to taste ready-ish to drink now, and the 17 Veracity, if you just received from our mailing list, it definitely needs a good 6 months.